Your little kid needs you. Your little son. Yeah, they're open back at 1:30. I'm gonna check with them. I'm ready when they are. Okay. Yeah, we about to get started tonight. He said the wrong second. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Beautiful crowd here on a Tuesday evening. My name is TJ Smith. I'll be the MC for this evening from WBAL News Radio. I host a show from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. And it's my pleasure to be here tonight for this. This is the second installation of the Solutions Pact. So trying to come up with ideas about a lot of what we often discuss. We hear it, we see it on the news often, and we discuss it, but what about the solutions? Funny thing about all of that is we agree on a lot, just different paths to get there. But before we go any further, let's welcome the gentleman who has welcomed us into their house. This is Huber Memorial Church, and the pastor is P.M. Smith. Pastor P.M. Smith, thank you very much for having us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Huber Memorial Church. This is a place where, as a church, we worship from Sunday to Sunday. We worship at the Huber Community Life Center. From Sunday to Sunday, we gather and we worship the resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. We welcome you, and we want to use the word R-E. Anybody remember Aretha? R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Respect. Respect for the place. This is his house. Respect for one another because we're a community, am I right? And we function like family, am I right? So I've been to a number of these, and sometimes they sort of kind of get, but not today and not here. R-E-S-P-E-C. Respect for one another. Now, as we prepare to go forward, I'm going to pray, but I want to make sure everybody has the strategic plan that our state's attorney, Mr. Bates, has committed himself to. If you don't have it, please get it. This is his commitment to serve the people of Baltimore City. If you don't have it, please get it. And I put in some folk hands. You need to know who your representatives are. Your congressmen, your state legislators, your city council people. This is for you. We're going to try to put it in your hands. But for right now, we're going to ask you to stand where you are, sit where you are. We're going to invite and invoke the presence of our good, great, and gracious God. Is that okay? Because this is his place. No, you can sit still. You can sit. I might pray longer than you used to, but I won't. At our school, we know how to pray strong and not long, okay? Would you just stay where you are just for now? Let's bow. Father, we bow before you. We invite and invoke your presence. We acknowledge you as our good, great, and gracious God, but we honor you as our Father. We thank you for the way you've protected us and provided for us. We thank you for the way you prepare us for everything we're going to encounter in this journey of life. Manifest yourself in and through your servants here and bless your people. In Jesus' name, amen. Good. I am done. I'm going to turn it back over to my tall cousin, but I'd like to be able to ask the first question. Is that okay? Can I ask the first question? Yes, sir. Let me put it this way. I'm asking the first question, okay?
All right, well, there's that. All right, Shorty, you don't get the first question today. The pastor does. But with that being said, tonight, how the order of operations is going to go, I'm going to turn it over to the state's attorney, and a couple other stakeholders are going to speak for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. As the pastor just mentioned, we want to be respectful of the house. We want to be respectful of each other. We know a lot of people might have questions or grievances that they want to air out. So there's the microphone, but 60 seconds. So think about what it is you want to say and try to put it together in about 60 seconds so we can get to as many people as possible. That's very important because I don't want to have to cut anybody off, turn the microphone off. We don't need to do that so we can try to get to as many people as possible. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to State's Attorney Ivan Bates. Then you'll hear from the 4th District Councilman, Mark Conway, and the Director of MONSE, Stephanie Marvonis. Everyone else up here on the panel panel will come up and introduce themselves and where they work and just a bit about what they do. And if you have questions that are directed to them, we'll bring them back up as well. All right? State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
Thank you. Good evening. How's everyone? All right. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for our second annual Solutions Pact. This is a very, very important conversation because we're going to talk about something all of us care about, juveniles. It's critical. It's critical to our families, it's critical to our city, and it's critical to our state. But first, I want to thank my co-chair for being a part of this important conversation, Chairman of the Baltimore City Council's Public Safety Committee, and Councilman for the very district, this very district actually, Councilman Mark Conaway of the 4th District. Thank you. I'd like to also thank those who are joining us as well. Stephanie Baronis, Director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, also known as MONSE. Thank you. Jeff Shorter, Chief of the Baltimore City School Police, thank you for being here. Dr. Andrew Bunley, Director of the Mayor's Office of African American and Male Engagement. Lisa Reynolds, Chief of Youth and Community Partnership for the Baltimore City Police Department. Richard Staten, Executive Director of Community Law and Action and a proud partner of B360. I'd also like to give a big shout out to my team that's all put this together. The head of my juvenile division, the Chief Deputy is Pam Chung, and Kay Rosenblatt, thank you very much for all that you do. Also like to thank my executive team that's been here, including the external affairs team and all the members of Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office. Thank you so much for your support in helping to put this together. Now let's talk to what's the matter at hand. Juvenile crime. It remains one of the most pressing issues in our city. When I go around, I talk to the people in the community, they say, yeah, you're doing a great job, and we see the numbers on violent crime coming down. But I'm concerned about juvenile crime. So what do? Do you lock them all up? No, that's not going to work. Do we do nothing and let the young people do whatever they want to? That's not going to work either. So that's why we have this conversation, is that we want to hear from you. We all have what we believe are solutions to the problem, but we need to sit down and have that conversation and figure out what we can do. You know, we could spend all night bashing DJS. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. And where's that going to get us? What we need to do is we have to talk about really what's going to happen, what's going to make that change. So for me, there's a couple things that are very important. Number one, growing up in the house of the Lord, I believe it's very important that we get back to making sure our young people understand faith, because that's so important. That also is important to have the faith institutions around our city be a part of this conversation so that they can also wrap their arms around our young people. Understanding what has been so important to the Black community in Baltimore City for many, many years. Once the faith institution is with our children, then we understand we're helping to put together and supporting the families that we have. We also have to make sure that we support and bring into this conversation a number of organizations who are already doing the work, whether it's B360, the Stokey Project, Her Resiliency Center, Cameron Miles Mentoring Males, Teens in the Hood, or Todd Stokes' We Rise programs. These are grassroots organizations that are doing the work that we need to partnership with to make sure that we're doing the work for young people to have the services that they need. And the third thing to me that's so important is to give and change the system. So right now, the juvenile system is something that a lot of people don't understand. It's not like the regular adult system. Here, a young person gets incarcerated. DJS makes the decision once the police have arrested them. DJS, they're taken to DJS, Department of Juvenile Services. They make the decision about what to do with them, and they could release them. They may or may not tell the state's attorney's office, our office, what's going on. It may take 15 days. The system makes no sense. You know, to me, I liken it to this. Everybody's been to the doctors, right? And so look at it like this. Think of the police as the triage. They're the individuals dealing with the issue right at hand. And then the triage would take you normally to the doctors. The doctors would be the judges, would be the state's attorney's office, and the public defender's office. And think of DJS as the pharmacist. The pharmacist is going to give you the medicine so that you feel better. But here, think of DJS as they're going to provide the program for the triage, which is that young person. However, the way the system's set up, the police, which are the triage, they then take that young person straight to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist decides what's best for that triage or that young person. That makes no sense at all. None. See, what we need to do is we have to change the system so that it works properly. One of the things that we see with the decrease in crime is the system is working properly with adults, so we need to also make sure it works properly with young people. So my suggestion for the solution pack is simple. When a young person is arrested by the police, if it's a felony, we need to bring them into the court and have what's called a special. What's a special? Special is a felony. If it's a felony, the judge needs to sit down and listen to the evidence where the state's attorney presents its side, because the state's attorney's job, my office's job, is to stand up, prevent, and to support the community, to support the victims, where the young person will have an attorney, the public defender, and DJS. DJS is going to say our job is to think about the best interest of the child. So now the public defender is advocating for the young person, DJS is advocating for the young person, and our office, the state's attorney's office, is advocating for the community. The judge would make the decision about what to do with this young person with this felony. At that moment in time, the judge makes that decision, and we then decide and listen to what the court says. But it makes sense because here, the court are the individuals who are responsible. When I talk about this, why would I talk about it from this standpoint? Right now, let me give you a couple statistics. In 2022, when people say juvenile crime is down, but for me in our office, it's not. In 2022, there were 303 juveniles who were arrested and charged with juvenile offenses in Baltimore City. In 2023, that number went to 637 juveniles were charged with juvenile offenses in Baltimore City. And last year was 1,126 juveniles were charged with juvenile offenses. So one of the things that we talk about are the felonies or the specials. And once again, these felony matters are important because we know from having a hearing last week with the city council and Baltimore City Police Department, the same young people are coming back over and over and over again. And they're coming back with felonies. So what we know is this. My office has compiled some statistics. So these felonies are what's called specials. There were 130 specials, which means the young people were charged with some sort of felony offense. And they were asked to be detained, just so that we could figure out what was going on. DJS made a decision to detain 31 of the 130, or 23%. That meant for every 4 young people that came, only 1 out of the 4 was detained. 3 of them were sent home. Unfortunately, when they're sent home, they're going right back out there and doing some of the same behavior. This isn't about locking up young people, but sometimes young people have to have a timeout to understand their actions. And we have to give them the services that they need. But sometimes they won't sit still long enough to get the services. So for me, my solution is that we change the system so that it supports the victims, but supports young people. So for me, in tonight's discussion, we're not here just to have grief and be angry. We're here to come up with solutions for change. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to BAL Radio's own TJ Smith. Oh, my fault. I forgot my friend. He came in here. Mr. Stokey Carmichael, a good friend of mine who's been doing phenomenal work here in the community. He's also part of us today. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion.
All right, and we're going to keep the program moving along, and Councilman Mark Conway here representing the 4th District, also chair of the Public Safety Committee for the Baltimore City Council.
Good afternoon. That's a packed house. Good to see you guys. First, I want to take a moment to thank Pastor Smith. Always a pleasure to be here. Always appreciate you opening your home, your parish to us. I want to thank State's Attorney Ivan Bates for inviting me and also appreciating the 4th District being here. I want to thank all of the city agencies and city partners who are standing behind me, who are contributing to Solutions Pact. I appreciate you all being here to be a part of the solution. We know we have an issue. We know we have a problem. We know we've seen a lot of success in violent crime and crime across the city, and I'm deeply, deeply proud of that success, and I want more. We deserve more. We deserve better. Just last week, the City Council, the Public Safety Committee, held a hearing with DJS in Baltimore City, the police department, Monty, and a number of other partners to dig into this issue and talk about what's going on. A lot of folks don't understand how our juvenile system works. And frankly, a lot of it I don't understand. It's a pretty opaque system. It's intended to be that way because we want to protect our young people. We don't want to treat them like criminals. We don't want to over-police them. We don't want to over-punish them. But we also don't want to ignore some of the problems that we see when they interact with our police department. So a couple of things came away from the conversation that I thought was really important. One, we're seeing historic declines, which is great, in complaints against young people. We're seeing historical declines in violent crime and other issues. But I think we all here, and part of the reason why we're here is because we don't feel that sometimes. One of the other things that stood out from that hearing was that the subset of young people that continue to interact with the police department and our justice system is very, very small. We're looking at somewhere between 10 and 50 kids. 10 and 50. If each of you stood up and chose a kid to work with, we'd have 5 to a kid. So we're looking at a pretty small subset. But what it tells me is that our system is incomplete. It's broken. That when young people are arrested and come in and are deferred to services, either those services are not meeting them soon enough, or those services are not sufficient for the issues that those young people are dealing with. Some of them are dealing with homelessness, they're dealing with lack of food, they're dealing with a lot of issues, and they take that stuff out on the streets. And they think it makes them tough. They think it's fun. Or they think any other issue. And those young people need guidance. They need accountability. They need support. These are our children. And we don't want them to go too far, so far that we can't get them before they become adults, and then they have to really be held accountable. And so today, I want to hear from you. I want to talk about what we're doing on the council, and I want to work together with everybody here to talk about what we can do to make sure we support our young people. Because at the end of the day, they're counting on us whether they know it or not, and I'm counting on you. So thank you. Thank you.
One of the things the pastor brought up and we heard the state's attorney bring up, be honest with you, we all need civics lessons. We need to understand how government works and who our representatives are and what they do. Yes, it's fair. We can always beat up on the mayor because you picked that job and that's what happens. But sometimes we're barking up the wrong tree. We go to the mayor and say, you need to make this law. Well, the mayor doesn't make the law. The executive branch doesn't make the laws. How many of you know who your state delegates and state senators are? They are the ones that need a lot of the pressure because sometimes there's a major disconnect between what you all want and what happens in Annapolis during the 90-day session when laws are made or repealed. So understanding those processes is also part of the solution that we all should take a little bit more ownership of. And it's been a lot of guilt in that. I've seen people jump from their local council person all the way up to Congress. I said, what about everybody else in between? Does that matter? And they don't even know who their local delegates and senators are that also have an arm in this. With that being said, let's turn it over to Stephanie Marvonis. She is the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here with you this evening. My name's Stephanie Mavronis. I serve as the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. also known as MONSE. Want to thank State's Attorney Bates for the opportunity to be here tonight, share a little bit about the ways that our agency works directly with young people and some of the roles that we play in the city. We are Baltimore's non-law enforcement public safety agency, one that was created by Mayor Scott shortly after taking office in December of 2020. And our job is to develop and implement the comprehensive violence prevention plan for the city that we released in 2021. And it was the first time that our city had a multi-year public safety strategy and one that went beyond the role of policing, prisons, prosecution in building a safer Baltimore. And so we do have this all hands on deck strategy that's important for us to realize the public safety gains that we're continuing to see. In our comprehensive violence prevention plan, which you can see on our website, monse.baltimorecity.gov, we have a dedicated pillar for youth justice and violence prevention. That pillar was created from the same understanding that we have to pay attention to what's happening with our young people. We have to find ways to intervene where we can to prevent violence from happening, and we have to get to our young people earlier. We don't want to wait just until our young people get in trouble to begin to offer services or to begin to hold them accountable. But we want to make sure we're pouring into them, that we are giving them their best. And so just to share a few of our touch points with young people, the way that our agency engages in this, we span different realms, from engagement to prevention to intervention to accountability. We're sometimes seen as the partner that provides services, which is true, but I do want to offer to the crowd tonight that when we're talking about services, that doesn't mean we're talking about a get out of jail free card. That doesn't mean we're talking about a lack of accountability. It means that we need to have the right intervention and we need to intervene in ways that are going to prevent exactly what we heard the state's attorney talk about. Any notion of a revolving door of young people, any notion that young people who maybe committed a lesser offense today are showing up tomorrow committing a felony offense. We want to make sure we're getting ahead of that we're finding those effective ways to intervene. And so our agency plays a few different roles. We are the agency in partnership with Dr. Bunley's office that's out on the ground in the evenings over the weekend. We started in early April doing youth engagement. We know when the weather's nice, our young people are going to be outside. We want to engage with them. We want to understand not only why they're out there and what they and their families need, but how can we make sure that they're getting home safe? We also play a role with violence intervention in our schools. School-based violence intervention is an initiative that we've been piloting in 4 of our schools, Mervo, Carver, Digital Harbor, and Edmondson Westside. And through that program, we have violence interrupters in schools who are working with our young people to intervene in conflict and address likely violence. We also are the agency that implements the group violence reduction strategy in partnership with the police department and the state's attorney's office. We engage with young people sometimes in that initiative. In that initiative, we're focused on those young people who may be affiliated with a violent group, who are directly connected to a group that's been involved in a homicide or non-fatal shooting. And so making sure that we are reaching the right people at the right amount of time to have an effective intervention. Additionally, our agency has piloted and is working to bring to scale a pre-arrest youth diversion program called Sidestep, which is for first-time offenders who commit lesser offenses. And so for us, it's about making sure, again, we're having that intervention where there is a case that's eligible for diversion, and we're making sure that young person gets connected to the services that they need while we focus on opportunities for restorative conversations between that young person and the person to whom they caused harm. And so there are a lot of lessons learned from that work. I think we have lots of ideas about what it will take to make it better as we scale citywide. But just want to share one thing before we close. I think the councilman alluded to this a bit. We have a lot of young people in the city. We are concerned about the issue of youth crime and violence, but we cannot allow what is a small amount of young people who may not be doing the right thing to paint all of our young people with a broad brush. That's not something that we're going to do. And so for our part, as a partner with all of our sister and brother agencies up here today, we're not going to needlessly throw young people into the revolving door of the youth justice system, and we are going to continue to have an all-hands-on-deck approach, and we are going to continue to work in partnership to realize the safety that we're seeing today, the greater safety that we're seeing today. And so just want to say thank you and looking forward to the conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and observations and appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Marvonis. And I promise you we're going to get to questions shortly. We're going to have brief remarks from the rest of our panelists, but just wanted to follow up. A couple weeks ago, back in April, the police department put out a press release about a rash of juvenile crime. It was a group of juveniles that did a weekend of violence and a crime, just a myriad of different crimes. And 2 of the young people involved in that had been arrested at least 9 times. That's how many times they were caught. Of course, that wasn't the first time. That was the times they were caught, those 9 times. Now, I think, personally, it's grossly unfair to them that they were even back out on the streets to be back in trouble more. And then we would be outraged if they were killed. They shouldn't have been put in that position. I see the sign says care, not cages. While I agree, and that might be a deficit, which we know it is, that there's not enough care, that goes back to the people who control the purse strings of the state, which is the General Assembly, to ensure that's where priorities are, and we can have more of that. And I offended the good councilman back here backstage when he let me know his birthday was next month as I was talking about my soon-to-be 13-year-old whose birthday is next month. I said he's a Gemini in every sense of the word. And we know, dealing with that age group, it's a challenge, no doubt about it. We have to tell them multiple times. So nobody, I can speak on behalf of all of them, nobody wants to lock up kids. But that timeout might be a life-saving opportunity for many of them. And we can't ignore the fact that they're spiraling out of control. Director Marvonis just spoke about the minor first offenders. That's a different bucket compared to the kids that are walking around with guns and putting them on people and yanking them out of cars. That's something that has to be stopped and dealt with. And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. With that, we have, of course, the esteemed group of guests here, and we'll start with Rashad Staten. Been in those streets for a long time doing this thing, and after that, we're going to go down to, just down the list. Dr. Bunley, he's Baltimore's principal, and he's seen it happen. The one thing I think we all love is redemption stories, especially young people that have been through the struggle and seen it. But Rashad Staten, come on up. And after that, Doc Bunley, you're right after Rashad.
Peace and blessings, family. How's everybody doing? Awesome, awesome. I stand in front of you all as a proud son and Baltimorean. I am the Executive Director for Community Law and Action, clear by shorthand, and also the advocacy partner of B360, another esteemed nonprofit organization in Baltimore doing amazing work and putting our young people first. I stand in here as not the only, but amongst many different stakeholders and community leaders that have put their time, lives on the line to be not just in front, but side by side of our young people with programming, with resources and things of that sort. So as I stand up here, I stand amongst many. My voice is not singular to my voice, but the voice that is reflective of community and making sure that we humanize our young people despite the world that they have to navigate. So thank you all. Appreciate being here.
Rashad said, man, they put me before you. I'm glad. Good evening, everybody. First of all, my name is Andre Bunley. I'm presently standing as representative for the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement with my colleague, Stephanie Mavrone, and many of my colleagues and friends out in the audience. Let me say this. And this is clear to me. Everybody wants to be somebody, even if it means being the worst version of themselves. And people will choose that if, in fact, it's a forced choice. You know, when I was growing up, my mother gave us a forced choice because we didn't have a whole lot of food in the house. So she gave us a forced choice, and we say, Mom, we hungry. She said, okay, baby, you can have peanut butter and jelly, or you can have jelly and peanut butter. That's all we got. And in some cases, that's what's happening with our young people. There's a forced choice. So the state's attorney said something that was very, very powerful. He said that we got to fix the system, and we got to work with our children. Well, let's get it then. Let's go to our children right away. Because here's what's convincing to me. For all the groups, not a particular bucket. If I'm talking about for all of our young people in this city, I'm looking out in the audience right now, and I can call names of individuals. I'm glad that I brought our crew with us. They came, I think they were riding in style. Now, y'all had a coach bus. I got to find out what's going on. I thought we didn't have any money. But they're here from the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. And then we have young people from all the other groups. So let's give them a hand for being here. And the adults that work with them. But again, let's get it. I know when we put our young people, regardless of where they are, in whatever bucket they're in, when you put young people with qualified adults who know how to work with them, Ty, we get it done. We get it done. So we're not expediting and expanding fast enough those individuals who can work with groups of individuals. Our young people are in different buckets, but the buckets do not exceed the number of qualified adults who want to work with them regardless of the bucket that they're in. And so that's what I'm saying. Let's get busy. Let's begin to expedite this process, right? Let's expedite the process, because when you do that, we will be able to address our young people. And again, I'll close with this, TJ. How is it that when we get the chance to know our young people, when we do good police work, the clearance rate is up, right? We know the story of the young people. How is it that we have them and we don't put them with the other people right away when they're back out there? Because I know some of those individuals who have done egregious things, put with the right people, is shut down. So I'm saying, let's get to work. Let's stop playing. Let's stop talking. We just got to get the right people who can do the right things in the right positions.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Jeffrey Short. I'm the Chief of Baltimore City School Police. We, too, provide prevention, intervention, and accountability, but we do it in a different way. We spend more time with our young people than anybody here. We see the young people when it's light outside to when it's dark outside. But we also see our young people in a way that most people don't. We get to see the pain, the hurt, but we also see the love and the joy that they bring every day. Our job is to uplift them, show them something different. But my question to you is, you all coming here for a solution. You are the solution. People talk about what we need to do on this side. We're just part of the village. And I'll just leave you with this that you can think about when you leave. We all know the African proverb, a child that's not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth, right? What are you doing to provide that warmth and that grace that children need today? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Reynolds, and I am Chief of Youth and Community Partnerships at the Baltimore Police Department. Tonight, we're here to talk about youth, and BPD is excited to be part of the conversation. I just wanted to say, and thank you to Director Mavronis for pointing out not just youth arrest, but also youth interaction. BPD is doing a lot of great things with junior cadets and Project Numa, as well as building out our youth advisory board. In addition, we're also working hard with the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation, and we'd like to talk a little bit about more of that and field those questions. I know the youth of concern, as Councilperson Conway pointed out, is probably where we have a lot of our questions, and I'm looking forward to fielding those questions on the work we're doing with the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Services, Muncie, and MOAM, as well as the State's Attorney's Office. So thank you for this opportunity. Looking forward to the questions and the great work that we're all going to do tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Carmichael Stokey Kennedy, CEO of the Stokey Project. I'm going to thank the pastor for letting us use this beautiful church. I'm going to thank Ivan for inviting me. But I first want to give my condolences to Officer Kenyon of the Baltimore City Police Department. She lost her son last night, which is a juvenile. So I want to give my love, my condolences to you, your team, as well as her. I grew up in Baltimore my entire life, and my pedigree, part of it is on this stage with me to my right. And most of what I learned was poor decisions make poor behaviors make poor positions. So he said something earlier about breaking the cycle, and I believe that you can't fix something unless you know how it works. And we normalize minding our business. I remember cutting school. You wouldn't go through the alley because you were scared to see Mr. Fred or Ms. Wilmer, but now we just mind our business. I think it's time for us to stop minding our business. And I think if we get involved in a universal standard and give the people, as Doc said, the instruments, the tools they need to fix these problems. Because again, these kids, they go by who they trust, respect, and relate to. 10 years ago, almost to the date, we had an uprising, but no one talks about how the word got out. They didn't have a horse, they didn't have a telegram. They used social media to communicate with a message that almost brought our city down. So sometimes you got to meet them where they at, and today, as I stand before you, I believe that the solution is in this room. I came here, or I grew up thinking that I was at risk, because as a juvenile, but now we at risk, unless we're going to do something about it. And I think that the tools that we need to navigate through these problematic situations, get our city under control, is in this room. And I pray everybody understands that you have the power to make the change that you want to see. We just can't normalize minding our business. Thank you.
All right, now is your time, and Pastor P.M. Smith gets the first question. If you do have a question, you could come up to the microphone. Remember, we're going to condense it to about 60 seconds so that we can be respectful of everyone else and their time. We have microphones at the end of each aisle, so you can line up, and we'll do some alternating. I'll call on you, and we'll do that. So you can direct your question to a specific person if you have a question about a particular entity. So, Pastor Smith.
Good. Thank you. My question is for the state's attorney. Mr. Bates, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Stand up.
Yes, Pastor.
No, come on, stand right here. I like the model you gave of the triage.
Yes.
What were those 3 parts again?
Yeah, the triage, which is the Baltimore City Police Department. Then you'd have, and I'll skip straight to the pharmacist, which is DJS. And then you have the doctor, which is the judge, the court, which is the state's attorney's office, and the public defender.
You're part of the doctors.
We're part of the doctor team.
Okay, now. I'm 78. I got a 40-year-old grandson and a 7-year-old grandson. The first time I got caught stealing, my father checked me and corrected my behavior.
That's correct.
First time my grandson, Anthony, I caught him, I checked and corrected, and the same thing with Langston.
Yes.
If we don't check and correct behavior at the beginning when we first observe it, then a worse thing is going to happen, and grown-ups know that. All right, now. It seems like the step-aside program is going from the mayor's office to the pharmacy without including you. That's
true.
what it seems like.
That's true.
Because when I was practicing, it was the state's attorney that initiated the diversionary programs, not the mayor. So I want to know how you feel about that. You, the state's attorney office, being excluded from the triad?
Yeah.
Okay. And you talked about Annapolis. There was a bill in Annapolis that did just about the same thing, that included the judicial system altogether. What was it called? The draft?
Direct file.
Direct file bill. Excluded the state's attorney's office altogether. I need the state's attorney involved because I need somebody to fight for me.
Yes.
Even if it means checking the behavior of my grandson. Because the sooner we check Anthony's behavior and Langston's behavior, the better off they're going to be for me. My father would put something on my butt, and he would say the reason is because I want somebody to love you one day other than me. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to know how you feel about being usurped and excluded from the process.
Well, the state's attorney's office.
What you going to do about it?
Yes, yes, sir.
No, I'm
You know, our job, one of the things that people don't always realize, sometimes they get mad and say the state's attorney's office just want to put people in jail. We don't want to just put people in jail. Our job is to speak up for the victims and keep the community safe. And sometimes that does mean putting people in jail. And that is what our job is. We can't do our job if we don't have all the information. So in reference to diversionary programs, you know, I do feel the diversionary programs should also be run through the state's attorney's office, and we should all come together. Because when the police make the arrest, then we understand who the young person is, we understand their background, we always have a systems of checks and balances. Our hope and goal is the young person has their ability to make that change right away. Then we, of course, we want to work with Monzi and the other programs that are out there so that young people make sure that they make the right decisions. Our goal is to have young people avoid the criminal justice system and to win in life. However, we still have to have a situation in the system where we hold young people accountable, but what's that accountability look like? For us, first-time offender, diversionary, misdemeanor, things like that, we're okay. We can't do that with victim crimes because we have to deal with victim crimes differently. So we're going to sit down and have the conversation with everybody, bring everybody to the table. I know we sit down and talk to BPD. We'll also be sitting down talking to Monzi, but bring everybody to the table so that everybody understands the criminal justice process. There are some things that we can do within the criminal justice system that other people can't do, and they don't always understand the criminal justice process. That's why we all have to work in this together so we can all make sure that we can protect. Our job is to protect the community, but it's to work together with everyone to make sure our children are together, protected.
All right, good. Do you feel that your part of the triad is being excluded? That's what I want to know. And what you going to do about it?
Well, one, it has been excluded, but we're having that conversation. We did sit down, we talked. I think the first thing is to acknowledge it, and I think everybody would acknowledge that we have been excluded. I think the next thing is to sit down and have that conversation, and having that conversation, understanding what everybody's good at and what everybody is going to be able to do and bring to the table. So that's the big thing that we'll be able to do. One of the things that we do, we have meetings with BPD's executive team. We'll have that conversation. We'll speak to Ms. Reynolds and her team to figure out what we can do to make sure this works for everybody, because at the end of the day, we have specific things that we as prosecutors must do and give the judges the information. So if a young person is in a program and has been diverted previously, we have to let the court know if this young person, God forbid, ever comes back. If we don't tell the court that, then now we, the prosecutors, are in trouble, and we're supposed to have that information. We have to have that information because it's a governmental agency, and the governmental agency is the state's attorney's office, so whatever the state's attorney knows or the police department or Monzi knows, then the court says we know.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question. Now, I'm going to sit down, but I need to make sure everybody gets one of these. This will let you know, do your research, who your congressperson is, who your state legislator is, who your city councilman is, because I've discovered that very few of us are aware. Got it? Then I want to read this, and this will tell you why I want you informed. This is by Hakeem Mahabuti. Don't talk. Don't talk about organizing the city, the world for self-reliance when you can't organize your own house or community. Start with self and move to those closest to you, and each in turn do the same. It's a slow but effective process, and it's better to be slow and effective than to be fast, ineffective, and seen in all parts of the city talking nonsense.
All right. All right, that's the pastor. This is the pastor's house, and he's a de facto panelist down there. So he got the extra time. You know how pastors say, I'm about to wrap this up. That means get comfortable. So thank you very much, Pastor. What we're going to do is go middle, my left, then to the right, and we'll repeat that process. Again, 60 seconds. Shorty, you're up.
Everybody on that panel knows me, correct?
Speak into the mic so everybody can hear you.
Everybody on that panel know me, correct? I'm an activist in Baltimore since 1986, all right? I'm wearing this sweatshirt for a reason. Tyrone West, Anthony Anderson, Maurice Donald Johnson. The people on this sweatshirt can't speak for themselves. They were killed by police and not protected by the state. State-sanctioned violence is what I'm talking about. We traded the penitentiary for the plantation, cotton for cocaine, and our black community is the cash crop. You want to demonize our kids? Well, I was born in 1959. We didn't use the church for this. We used the church to build our communities. We used the church to protect our youth. You know what I'm saying? I got locked up for doing what I'm doing here now. It's the good kind of trouble. I want the state to do what they're supposed to do, protect our communities and stop demonizing our youth. Plain and simple. Answer my letters, answer my mail, and do your job. How that sound?
Thank you very much, Shorty. Let's go over to the left. My left.
Good evening. My question is about reintegration. I hear a lot about prevention, but what happens after a juvenile gets into the system and comes out? I don't know if there's a program right now, but my proposition is that we partner with local businesses to have mandatory job placements, because I feel like after someone gets a stain on their record, they're deemed unworthy. And if you know a saying from all of us when we're young, idle time is the devil's playground. So after you get that stain on your record, how do you get a job? You're wiping windows as you go, and you're back in the system. So what is the state doing about reintegration, job placement, vocational training to make sure those kids, those juveniles, become thriving adults?
Reentry. Anybody want to take that?
So I'll take a stab at that. We have a program called the Re-Engagement Center within the Baltimore City Public Schools. So when they come home, a stain is not a stain, it's just a dot, right? It can be erased, but it can be erased with good behavior, and you do the things that you need to do to become a good student first, right? Because without knowledge, you don't have that power that you talked about. Without putting something in a student's mind that's a good seed that's planted through my department, we do those things in the Baltimore City Public Schools. We spend more time with the students than anybody else. So when they come home, we provide those things with the assistance of their parents, because without the help of the parents, the students, they're going to struggle. They're going to go back to what they used to do. So reintegration starts at home first. Secondly, when we get your students or your young people, we do the things that's necessary with the re-education, which a lot of them don't have. We give them the love that they don't have. We give them the mental health treatment that they don't have. And we give them the education that a lot of them just lack. So we have a graduation every 6-7 months through the Re-Engagement Center. So that's what the Baltimore City Public Schools do to deal with the reintegration piece.
And every entry is important for adults and juveniles alike, but it goes back to making sure we know who our state legislators are to ensure they understand the importance of that, because that's a big part of it, because the people are going to be coming back, and we don't want to continuously arrest the same people, right? Let's go over this side.
Hello, thank you. This is for anybody on the panel. So we do know through nationwide trends and studies that a large part of the surge in juvenile crime in the last few years was the disruptions and ripple effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the effects on our schools, the effects on our after-school activities, et cetera, summer programs. And I'm glad that that's been subsiding, but we know that there's another wave of disruptions coming. Disruptions to funding from the federal government, from the state government, private not being able to make up the gap. So I'm wondering how we are aware of and anticipating that issue, that disruption causing potential additional waves of disruption for children that might lead to more juvenile crime, and if that's something that we're planning on addressing.
I'll attempt to answer that question. Actually, I'll answer from here because easier to see. I'll attempt to answer that question. I think we know a lot of people are dealing with mental health issues, and especially our young people who needed that socialization in their core years and early growth years. Now that we've opened everything back up, they're having issues integrating, they're having issues working amongst each other and working in society. And that is a ripple effect that we are seeing today. We're seeing that in adults. We're seeing that in babies that are now toddlers and otherwise. So I think this is a new reality, I think, for us that we need to be aware of. Mental health, I think we talk about it a lot, but I think COVID had a particular impact on mental health, and I think we all need to be aware of that. People being closed up in their house for 2 years was not good for anybody's mental health. So it's something that we're ever aware of. I think there are going to be more pressures now because of some of the changes at the federal level in funding and supports. But it's something we're certainly aware of, and we'll continue to think about how we can support people, young people especially.
So let me just say this, State's Attorney, it's going to be very important that we capture this, right? Because it would be a shame, if Dr. Powers, it would be a shame that we say the solutions are in this room, correct? So if the solutions are in this room, it would be a shame if the people in this room don't hold the people up here accountable for the solutions that we're going to get together and do and bring to its logical conclusion. If the solutions are in this room, right? And I believe the solutions are in this room. Because again, everything and everybody we need or an example of that individual is in this room. So in terms of reintegration, that process of bringing those young people back, we've begun to do it. So if we've done it and we're doing it, it can be replicated. It can be scaled. So I'm just saying, let's make certain, hold us accountable and give us a timeline when we should be seeing some solutions come to fruition.
I want to add an additional point to that because I think this is important. We had a conversation recently about young people not going to school. Super important. And one of the issues in my private conversations with the school system is that many young people have records and are trying to re-enter school and reintegrate back into school and just being a kid again. And that becomes a burden from. I think there's a lot that we need to consider about how the records and otherwise do have an impact on young people, their integration in their communities, their integration into schools, their ability to get jobs and otherwise. And we need to swoop in and support them where we can.
All right, let's go to the middle.
I'm a president of a neighborhood association. And this is not really for the stage, it's for the audience. We attempt to, the stage is here. We had to walk on the floor before we got to the stage. And the help is here. It's the parents. And the school folks and the mayor's office spoke on it. And we have to look at ourselves, do a self-examination. It's a male problem, African-American male problem, 30 to 50-year-olds, not parenting and not being responsible for the children. We have to stop trying to look for city people, agencies, and all these to help us when we can look in the mirror and help ourselves. Women have to make good decisions on the kind of guys they make for husbands and fathers. And fathers have to get up and step up and take care of their children. It's just a shame that we keep looking for you to give us the answer when we already know the answer. We call the police, we call lawyers, we run down to correctional facilities and visit. Stop it all in the house. Thank you.
See, if we had the organist back there, that's when the praise break would happen because parents got to parent. That's number one. Let's go on over to my left.
I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm losing my voice. So
no, we can hear you. Good.
Get this out. I first want to thank everybody who came out, and especially the panel. I thank you guys. I just wanted to piggyback on something that just about all of you have said. The community. It takes a village. And like Mr. Stokely said, where is our village? It was there when I was growing up. But I'll tell you, back a few administrations ago, when they cut out the recreation centers and the parks and the libraries, when the 8 and 9-year-olds didn't have anywhere to go, those 8 and 9-year-olds are now 24, 25-year-olds who are telling the 8 and 9-year-olds, come here, hold this, I got a couple of dollars for you. We need the community back, but we also need the state's attorney's office, the mayor's office, the administration. And I see you guys are doing a lot, and I certainly appreciate it. I grew up in Baltimore City. I am a product of Baltimore City. So was my child. My child was murdered in Baltimore City 2 years ago. My question is, when I understand that we want to really rehabilitate these children, believe me, I am all for accountability, because my car got broken into and they run through it just to take the change. But my question is, when do we reach these children? When they're here. We don't need to wait till they're here. And I understand what we're doing in the high schools, and that's great. We need to be in the elementary schools. And for those people who always come for the parents, don't get me wrong, the parents is the first source of love, education, training, and everything else. But everybody doesn't have a parent. And those of us who do or did, some of us work so much because we're single parents, and we need the community. So, you know, it's not always, and some of the parents are the grandparents, unfortunately, who don't have time or energy or just the physical stamina to get up and chase that child out of the house, or take them down to the police department, or make them give what he stole back from the store. So my question is, what are we doing to reach them when they're here before they make it to get here, or unfortunately, like my son, doesn't make it to even be here to listen to this community town hall? Thank you.
For me, I'm going to give you my condolences again. For me, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because, you know, the gentleman said something about asking people to help us raise our kids or looking for the answers. And I remember one day I was watching television and 50 Cent was doing an interview, and they said, "We heard you was a chump. We heard you was scared, and you would run home." He said, "Well, that's not true. Who I'm gonna run home to? Ain't nobody there." He said, "I'm running home to myself." So I understand the problematic issues that we face in our communities where there's a lack of resources, whether it be early childhood development. And I think what you said, it starts in the school, starts in the home, but we have to find the real solutions. And I always use the word nostalgia because oftentimes we look for the right answers in the wrong people. And you spoke about the 9-year-old kids being, you know, used as pawns, you know. Just last Thursday, I went to a 6-year kid funeral, 6-year-old. And it's funny how it happened because I was there paying for someone else's funeral. Didn't realize I was in the place where I was supposed to be. But for me, I'm doing everything I can from a community standpoint in my individual capacity to hire young men, young women, to give my opportunity to do better than I did when I was coming up. Although we don't have the recreation centers like we used to, find other ways to get them engaged and involved. But one thing is missing to me today. We keep talking about the problem, but I don't see the problem in this room. And I'm looking for the kids so I can say to you, this is where the help is coming from, this is where the help is to go, but they never hear. So somebody here got to be a messenger. We got to keep being messengers, going back to the kids, telling them what we want for them. And they say, hold on, I don't want that no more, right? Well, I don't want that, that don't work for me. I think one of the things we got to do when we have these panels is always invite the kids so they can hear us talk about them.
So Stokey talked about the system again. And again, listen, we're blessed in Baltimore because, not because our children drop out of school, but we're blessed because they even, at least parents, regardless of the condition that they're in, send them to school. We're blessed in that regard because what we're able to do, and we have some of the great educators. We got Dr. Brooks, who's one of the greatest educators I've seen in the city, right? You can give her a hand if you like. But at any rate, we see, once they come into school, we see them pop out. The question is, again, what are we going to do with children that are popping out? And what's the system that we put in place? So again, you know, I'm ready to go because we already have a solution. What are we going to do? Everything that you talk about, there's a solution for it. Are we going to get started with the solution? I'm hopeful that that's what we're doing. That's why I came, because you called it. I'm ready to go. We ready to go. How many of y'all ready to go? We're ready to go. Let's go.
I want to add one more fine point to this. This is an issue that we're trying to tackle on the council, in a bill that I introduced a while ago, focused on chronic absenteeism, and we were talking about the schools. 48% of young people are considered chronically absent in Baltimore City schools. 48% are missing 10% or more of school. We're pouring hundreds of millions of dollars more into our schools, a ton more money, because we want to make sure kids can get the greatest education they can here in Baltimore City schools. But kids are still not showing up at the rate that we need for them to be successful. So I think there's a real opportunity here, one, with all the resources that we're putting in our schools to support them with mental health and food or anything like that. There's tons of resources in our schools that are there to meet the needs of our young people, but if kids are not showing up, that's a big, big challenge. I don't know if anybody here who has kids are missing school, but it starts there. It starts there. We're trying to invest in our schools, and there's an opportunity here to make sure that the resources that exist in our schools are available to our young people. So I would definitely start there as well.
And I also want to piggyback. You're right, this is just a joint effort. One of the things people always say, the only thing your office wants to do is lock people up. What they don't know is we were down in Annapolis in January, and we put a bill in, thanks to Delegate Ellison, that dealt specifically with truancy. And the governor signed that bill. And what that bill does, it allows all the other jurisdictions but Baltimore City were able to get money and other things, but Baltimore City wasn't at the table. We were able to realize that in the state's attorney's office, and from there we said, hey, how can we get this bill passed? We worked with our local delegates. The governor signed that bill, so that will be resources coming to the schools so that it can help our children. But once again, it's everybody working together, and like they say, lift as you climb. And for us, that is so important because once again, yes, our job as prosecutors is to hold people accountable, but our job also is when we see a problem, how can we step in to fix it?
And on the village, I think the village is being repaired. It was very violent in the city for a stretch, and there were a lot of people who just wanted to mind their business because they were scared. And I think as we see that if we start minding the business of the community, those communities that have strong homeowners associations or partnerships or whatever it is, you see the difference in those communities. And I use a term often to talk about certain communities, and we know what they are, the user-friendly communities where it seems okay to do the bad behaviors over and over and over again and abuse those specific communities. So that's what we all have to come together and dismantle those user-friendly communities. Over here.
Hello. My issue, I heard Mr. Bates, he said church, organizations, and change in the juvenile system. I see everybody up there, but I don't see DSS up there. I worked with youth in Baltimore City schools, DJS, foster care. My godson has been killed. I have gone to find ways for my foster children, which were boys and girls, to get assistance with help with their behavior. And I've always been told, until they get in trouble, will I be able to get the assistance that I need as a single woman raising other people's children as well as my own? I had the help of organizations like football when my kids were growing up. But this last group that I'm raising, it doesn't make sense. I've called all the way up to the top with my one child and said he's either going to be incarcerated or dead. I need help. He is now incarcerated. And only because I didn't get the help that I saw that this young man needed. And DSS and DJS and all systems did not help. And I live in this neighborhood. I talk to the kids. And the one thing they talk about, they're out in the streets for money. 14-year-olds, money. DSS, you have kids that have been returned back to their homes where parents are not parents. And it's not a good situation for them. So there again, social media and money. How can you help with that?
Well, you're right about that. One of the things that we do, unfortunately, when I look at the state's attorney's office, our job is we're looking at what happens to the end result, unfortunately. Part of the reason we wanted to bring everybody here so we could talk about that and have a solution. So what I'm hearing from you is clearly that your problem, the issue you have, and so many people have, and we hear this as well, my children are acting up, but it's going to be too late. What can I do? Well, that's something that we need to sit down, and also we got to talk to the delegates. Talk to your delegate, talk to your state senator. Find out what bills they can put in to make sure that the money is there for you and for your family to make sure that they're there. You know, we can't fix the problem if everybody doesn't know the problem. And what I constantly hear, and I say this all the time, what could we do differently? Once again, everybody in the system has a particular role. Our role as prosecutors, holding individuals accountable, standing up for the victims, that's our role. But our role also needs to be when we see a problem, what can we do? For instance, one of the things that we do, they have within our court, the district court, we have a truancy court. And time and time again, if you go to truancy court, you hear a number of parents stand up and say, I've done everything I can, my baby's just not listening to me. They don't want to go to school. And so they're screaming out for help. And so the one thing the court tries to do, it tries to find the resources, but unfortunately, we have a system that's under-resourced, and we're not able to give it the resources. Some of the people you asked for and you mentioned, we invited them, they didn't come. And so we can't necessarily control that. What we can control is the people up here saying we want to be a part of the answer and to the solution to your problem.
Yeah, that is an age-old problem. I was in law enforcement for many years, and getting a call from the parent whose child hadn't been in the system yet, it's just the gap of what to do next. And that mom whose son was convicted of killing Officer Amy Caprio in Baltimore County, and they see her on television crying of how she reached out trying to get help for him and couldn't, that's a gap that exists, and it goes back to the service and the programs available there. Back to the middle.
Thank you very much. A fellow Baltimorean already asked the question I had in mind of just what are we going to do knowing that there are these massive federal cuts to effective programs, knowing that we're dealing with a budget crisis, and I appreciate the response, but I just want to emphasize we have effective efforts. I'm extremely proud of our city for how much I love the framing here. Like, we are coming together as a village. We're trying. We know it's not just one solution. We have to have different approaches. And we're now about to lose funding for effective programs. So just want to, again, lift up what is it that we're doing towards that end. And then the other point I wanted to raise, I just wanted to emphasize what was shared by the panel, where folks emphasize that we're talking about the worst kids. We're talking about 50 kids, and I love the framing around, like, if all of us could help out, we'd be good. But we're also using like a couple of dozen kids as an excuse to demonize our majority black community. The Senate president a couple of years ago, last session, said, we aren't going to address effective reforms for juvenile justice because there is a perception that there's a massive increase in youth crime. And we want to address the perception. And so I just really want to encourage us as we're thinking through our efforts. There's no doubt they're kids that are jerks. But we're talking about at that scale, I'm just curious how, as elected officials, as folks with access, what are we doing in terms of talking about the messaging that points out that it's not all of our kids. And as was mentioned before, it's because our kids are dealing with massive issues that it's not on them, but what are we doing in terms of investing in our communities and making sure that's a talking point and not just blaming a couple dozen kids for everything?
I'll jump in real quick. So in Baltimore City School Police, I came in August. And what I learned was that, like many other agencies, they work in silos, right? So if you have somebody doing something here, somebody doing something, it looks like nothing is being done. So what I've learned to do is work with a lot of the credible community-based organizations such as We Are Us, Baltimore Brothers, GEMS, the Movement Team, Safe Passage. The sororities, the fraternity and sororities, when you bring everybody together, you get more push. You get more things that come together because as those resources go, you got to start pulling up with what you have. And when you pull up what you have, you'll have more than what you had if you did it by yourself. So what I'm doing with my office is because they have a passion for children that many people just don't understand. We're in the schools day and night. We're in the schools from the time they get there to breakfast, to playing sports to go home at night, to make sure they go home. And I've learned that partnership and collaboration, for me, is the key to make out, as you talk about, the kids that we don't talk about, the good kids, right? For me, all kids are good kids. It just takes a special person to bring that thing out of them that we all have, because we did stuff as kids. We were not labeled all as bad kids. Everybody saw something in each one of us that's here tonight. We have to collectively find that something in our kids for them to do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do.
Great.
Can I just add to that? I know Councilperson Conway had mentioned the number 50, and I just wanted to say that, at BPD, while we're looking at all these other youth and people who want services, the ones that are our youth of concern, we have, reached out to DJS and inserted ourselves as much as we can. We meet with them weekly now. We really are trying to be intentional to figure out, what are the services these youth need? What are they currently getting that's not working? Are they going to school? Are they on a monitor? Are they violating that monitor? Just trying to get DJS, who's really like, as was called, the pharmacist, to see, do these youth need to go back into court and get their court orders amended? BPD is doing our best to make sure that, we're working with our law enforcement partners to recognize crime patterns and trends. And I also want to point out that the youth of concern that we're talking about, I'm where they go. I've met most of them, and I've never had an issue. They've never denied speaking. They're never rude. They're at a point in their life, they've asked for services. They continue to ask for services. And again, it's just, they're the ones that are chronically repeating and arresting, and I appreciate Dr. Bunley's points to really, we need to start intervening earlier.
Peace and blessings again, everyone. I must admit, to sit here and listen is very compelling, right? But anybody that knows me as a leader, executive director of an organization, I want to say one thing, and I want to resound what that gentleman just led with. We can look at our social economics, we can look at our barriers, we can talk about the problem in itself. But one problem that I know for certain that our city has is a narrative framing problem. Baltimore in itself is wealthy in resources. We have the most active nonprofit entities in any city or urban populace across this country, which means when you have a large populace of nonprofit community-based organizations, that means that the village themselves see the problem, acknowledge the problem, and are all operating less than $50,000 as an annual budget to save the communities that they're living in. However, if we collectively use these platforms, when the media is here, when we are here in our church and we are gathered as a beloved community, and only thing we lift up amongst champions that are looking to our left and our right, we don't shift the mindset, we don't galvanize the energy, and we don't lift up the momentum of those that are sitting tirelessly, underfunded, underpaid, and get less thank yous for saving lives every day. I must admit, the narrative that we don't have recs and parks, it's a factoid, which means it is not real. That fact is not true. Our recs and parks are backing up. Yes, we have lost a whole generation that have seen them when they were not operating. But now, what do we do now between the ages of 20 and 70 years old to tell the young person that we're scared to look in the eye to say that rec is back up? That school that once resembled a prison now have glasses that we can look out. We have more black and brown educators in our classrooms. We have more functional nonprofits that are actually certified in mental health and trauma-informed care. We have a school district that has prioritized trauma-informed care, social emotional learning, and has designated wholeness specialists at each school. The goal is, what do we do to make sure that the information is out there, that our young people know that they can access it? We are sitting in a rich city of resources, change agents, and I'm looking out there. I know I'm not the only one that can recognize 200 people that I see every day. And the narrative that we must dispel is we're no longer operating in silos, you all. Not those that are on the grassroots level, not at all. And at this point, all of our agencies and our leaders, I am not elected official, but I know every single one of them by face and by name because it makes sure that myself and our young people get at the table. So what are we going to do to take accountability for our own self-actions? We all grew up in a community that didn't have every relative there. But what are we going to do to fill that void? These young people are human. These young people are fearless because they have to survive. What are we going to do to engage them to say, actually, how is your day doing? How are you doing today? Have you eaten? I love you. Has anybody asked you, are you okay? The goal I want to ask is where, and thank you, because I was simply about to ask that. We have young people in this room. Let's give them the space to ask the next questions.
And with that, the young people in the room, can y'all stand up really quickly so we can acknowledge you? Under age.
Stand up, London. Stand up, Dominic. Stand up, Ryan.
You know, one of the things that I also need to do is, you said there only be 50 kids. So unfortunately, when we look at the numbers are a lot different. Remember, I said in 2022, my office had 303 young people we charged. In 2023, it was 600 young people. And then in 2024, last year was 1,100 and some odd young people. So the crime is happening. I recognize everybody's perception is different. So you're blessed because you have the opportunity to hear from the young people. I get to hear from the victims. And what I hear from the victims time and time again is they feel like they're being preyed upon. What I hear from the victims is that we live in a neighborhood where we're paying taxes, and I walk out, and every single car in my neighborhood had their windshield broken. Or I sit and read the reports every day, or I got 2 young people that were shot last night in the city. So we also have to understand we have some phenomenal young people doing some phenomenal things with some phenomenal programs. But we also have a number of other issues going on where we do have a small amount. Just as we focused on the violent offenders, a small amount of violent offenders committing those types of behavior and that action. We also have to understand the perception is the reality of the individual that's living in that community. And their reality, and I hear it time and time again, is that they're fearful to go out. And they're fearful to go out, unfortunately, because they're saying young people are doing A, B, C, and D. How do we fix this problem? One, we got a group of good young people over here doing the right thing. So we have to let that message also come out in the media to say not all young people are bad. But we also have to make sure that we also let other people who live in the community know that we're here for you, we see you, and we acknowledge what's going on with you. But yet, opportunities like this to have this discussion allows us to sit down and remove some of the barriers of really what's going on in the community.
I want to add a little bit of context here as well. I like you, State Attorney, I get the complaints. I chair the Committee on Public Safety, and I hear from the victims. I hear from the people in communities that are fearful, unfortunately. And I have to weigh that with kids who are just being mischievous sometimes, and kids who sometimes are being more than mischievous, and figure out how we want to handle those situations. This is not a conversation I want to have. Let's be clear. Nobody wants to be here. No. You don't want to be here for this. You'd rather be here to be supporting kids, not complaining about the fact that we haven't solved the problem. So I look at this issue. If you have a leak in your roof, and the first time you notice that leak is coming through your wall, you don't just paint your wall, you gotta fix the leak. When we see young people that are repeatedly arrested, we have to fix the leak. We can't just put a Band-Aid on it. We can't just tell them to go to some service or something like that, because the service is not gonna solve their deep-seated issues and the reasons why they continue to commit crime. That's why we're here. We're here to find solutions to the deep-seated issues so that young person doesn't have to come back. And the next time they wave that red flag, we have sufficient programming, we have sufficient responses, and a way to really resolve their problems. That's why we're here.
All right, and As we move forward, we'll try to do some rapid fire, so we try to get to everyone that's in line. I think we might have cut the lines off now, so we can try to ensure to get to those who are in line. The restorative justice model that was kind of a buzz thing going around over a number of years. If young people don't really understand what empathy means, we might be just circling the wagon there, because they don't necessarily know what the effect of breaking the car window out meant to that person that had to wake up and go to work the next day or get their child to daycare. So it's the education piece that plays a big role in a lot of this as well. We've got a few young people in line. I want to get to the young people, but we're going to start here and then work our way down the road. So let's go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not young, but...
yeah, you don't count, but yeah, take it as a compliment tonight.
Thank you. Question. Is there anyone on the panel who have a medical degree in mental health or as a doctor, a medical doctor? And the reason why I'm asking that question is because we have definitely identified a problem, but have we really identified solutions? And one of the gentlemen over there asked a question about the effects of COVID-19. Are there any long-term effects? Because some of these kids have been shut in for 2-3 years, and some of them had gotten COVID, and some of the parents have gotten COVID. I'm just concerned about whether or not are we embracing the medical community as a whole to identify why some of these people are doing some of these juvenile crimes. Is it a medical issue, meaning physical, or is it a mental issue, emotional? I want to know if you all partnership with the medical community to mental health to decide what we can do, because I do think that it is probably
yeah, that's
doctor
probably,
kind of thing.
I know we have at least one doctor up here, but not a doctor of medicine. That's probably a partnership that I know with all the institutions we have here, some great ones, that we can lean more into to bring to the table, which is long term. I know Roka does a lot of work on the cognitive, dealing with the young people's mind and how it beats and how long it takes to untie that and reprogram. So that's a very good point for the long-term change that's necessary. So I'm sure notes are being taken, and that's something that has to be integrated into the model. So thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
So my question is kind of basically what he just asked. So I would like to know, why do you guys think that locking us up is going to do something? Because y'all say, oh, y'all keep constantly getting locked up over and over and over again. It's a repeating thing. So what makes y'all think that us as teenagers, or however old it starts, where a child starts to become rebellious, where do y'all think that helps us in like anything in life? Besides giving us a record, us not being able to get a job after us getting locked up, having to go through court to get expungements, and more. Because it's already putting a stereotype on us, keep locking us up over and over and over again. It's not a good look. Sorry.
So I just want to clarify that I don't agree with that, right? I don't feel that way. I don't think it's what did you do. I think it's what happened to you. I think it's important we ask the question the right way. But also, there are laws, and if certain crimes are committed, Baltimore Police Department is required to bring the youth to Juvenile Justice Center for processing. And like the state's attorney said, that triggers another series of events. That detention, at that initial decision at arrest, is an overnight detention, where the next business day the court will have a hearing. I think what is necessary is services. Obviously, services in the community always work best. And I think to the state's attorney's point, there are times where public safety and victims need to be considered. And then hopefully down the line, the services in the community work. And if they don't, then there are treatment centers that a youth can go to go get their needs met. But I think this all goes back to the point, we can't just treat the person, we have to treat the family, and the community has to be present for all of that.
So how does the community play a part in it? Because at my school, y'all, okay, so for what he just said, he said that we're the most, we got the most funding, like our city get paid the most for resources and funding and stuff like that, right? So how come that can't be possible? Because for one, we have terrible school lunch. Two, our teachers barely even get paid enough to be there in the first place. They complain about it all the time. They complain about how they don't get paid enough to be here and the way we talk to them and our behavior and this and that and the third. But I don't really see them playing a part or really trying to help or making a good, I mean, y'all are here doing this meeting, but you guys aren't, coming to us, asking us what's the problem. Y'all are trying to figure it out on your own.
If I could jump in real quick. So, when I was with BPD, one of the things that I learned that it's the community is the same way, right? I'll use the hammer and nail analogy. I love to use that, right? So for years, the police department was banging away. This is what you're going to get. We're going to force it to you. But when we learned to flip it upside down, we pulled it out. So we're creating a youth advisory board that is up and running. I don't know if your school participated in that. We also have a school police report card where we sent surveys out that most students and most principals were supposed to administer to find out, what do you want? Because I agree with you. Well, if I don't ask you, how can I just tell you what you need, right? Mm-hmm. So having these youth advisory boards is important that I'll get your information, mm-hmm. and I encourage you to join it at your school because you can tell me what you need.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I, while we have the young people, young lady, thank you for asking that question. Thank you for leading in your truth. So outside of you have the Police Youth Advisory Board, right? You have the CEO's Youth Advisory Council, right? You have Baltimore City Youth Commission, right? All of these are city-wide youth councils where you become a part of the decision-making table and you're protected legally through policy to tell your truth, and they are obligated to listen to you to come up with solutions. There are over 7 citywide youth councils that are here with only 2/3 of them full. These entities, and they are part of these large agencies and institutions from the health department to city schools to the police department to recs and parks. They created space for youth and intergenerational engagement. What do we do as a community to make sure that these applications are not void, they're not vacant, and our young people know of them? Our young people that are in schools, you have the option to be a part of your associated student councils, your SGAs, right? Your class presidents. There are places for you all to occupy in leadership. There's no reason to flip the table when you can sit at the table. But our community must tell them where those tables are, or we will continue to act and think that we have a community that is not listening to them. Raise the alarm and raise the voice so our young people can position themselves. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Deshaun Smith. I met him on May the 5th. He wanted to tell you a story, but he said he was just a little nervous. So I said, there's no reason to be nervous. You're in a good space. Deshaun sat on my porch on May the 5th, and I think he cried for a good half hour. He cried because he was overwhelmed in his house. I didn't know him. A neighbor brought him to my door 9:30 at night. He said he left out of his house, and he said he just started walking. And he said he started walking to a neighborhood where he was familiar. He said he was over it. It just was too much for him, and he just didn't want to go on. I said, oh, you're going to go on because you still here, and you're not broken. I told him that, and I said, I'm going to stick with you. It's been 15 days, so I brought you up here. Dr. Bunley, I love you. And Dr. Bunley, you got the state's attorney, you got Stephanie, and they're here for you. It's a hard thing to hear a child cry and say that they don't want to live. That was hard for me that night, but he is standing here with me and said, Miss Sonia, I want to come tonight. I've been doing this for 20 years, y'all. I love this boy. I do this every day. And we are here, and we're going to do everything that we can to help you. I want every child to know what it is to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what it is to say, what's your homework, what you're going to do. He's going to graduate from from what's that school? Walter B. Carter. See, he said Walter B. Carter. He didn't want to talk, but he's talking now.
Mother.
And so I'm happy about that, and I thank you so
Mother,
much.
let Miss Estep talk with him right here from our office. He don't have to talk now, but we're gonna help you.
I thank you.
All right,
and I'm always at your service.
We're gonna help you.
Morning, noon, and night. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You know, first of all, that's leadership from you, young man, because you were vulnerable and expressed that, and you're here. That's big in and of itself. And young boys, young men, take something from it, because it took me to become a father before I can cry over a movie like that these days. Boy, I'm glad they stopped this story, because I'll be up here sobbing. It's okay to cry. It's okay to let it out, because if you bottle it up, it's going to come out the wrong way. So don't let the society tell you it's not okay. It is okay to let it out, and that is leadership from you, being able to be here in front of your peers, in front of all of us. You don't have to say a word. Your presence is more than enough. Let's go over here. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. My question is, wanted to know if there's any funding for continued care and counseling and therapy services for people that can't afford it.
Counseling, money for counseling for people who can't afford it. Money for counseling for people who can't afford it.
I think for us, basically, we are saying is either you have insurance or we send people to Dr. Brooks, and Dr. Brooks knows everything, or if she doesn't know it, then it doesn't exist. So this lady right here sitting up front, as Dr. Deborah Brooks, ask her that question because she knows a whole lot of stuff. She's right there. Yeah.
And
go see Dr. Brooks.
And another important mark that was brought up a couple of times about the funding coming in and some funding getting cut. Hopefully, if you know people who didn't vote and things didn't go the way you wanted and you're upset about the funding, elections have consequences. So make sure that's other parts of what needs to happen to ensure if you like what is happening and you want more of it, you have to make sure the people who were giving that to you continue on. If you don't, then it can get cut off. So that's very important as well.
Can I just add one thing on
Yes,
that? Just a resource for everyone in the room. For those who aren't aware, 988 is now a number that you can call if you are having a mental health crisis, if you need someone to speak to. I won't share that. I won't say it's a replacement, right, for intensive therapy services, but for in that moment when you need someone there for you, just know 988 is active. You can call it from anywhere you are, and that's a service that's available to everyone in the public for free.
988, and I know that We Our Us Men have the beef hotline for the young people, for the people to mitigate the beefs in the moment. That's important, 24/7. Doing a lot to ensure that happens. Let's go to the middle. Again, let's try to do rapid fire because y'all can be here all night because I'm not. But I got to work in the morning. No, I'm kidding. But let's go to the middle. No, seriously about the rapid fire, though. Let's go to the middle.
This is for State's Attorney Bates. I'm a father of a 7-year-old daughter at Baltimore International Academy. She's in the Russian Immersion Program. I wanted to know what exactly we were doing with Governor Moore, his new AI executive order when it comes down to ending the school-to-prison pipeline. The school-to-prison pipeline, that's a systemic barrier that's been put in place that we know that's been going on for a very long time. I've been able to see it all across the country, especially here in Baltimore. I'm saying, what is it that we're going to actually do about ending the school-to-prison pipeline? On top of it, allowing for it to become the digital school-to-prison pipeline, because now the students are being programmed in such a way that where now they're just pushing their way into the jail system, moving themselves away from literacy into more illiteracy, but we don't have any surveillance that's actually moving them forward, but we're also just allowing things to just continue to happen. So this has been going on for a long time, and I'm like, what do we plan on doing it with the new executive order?
So what I'll do real quick, I've instituted programs that was already in place. The GREAT program, the DAD program, and the school safety program. I always wanted to be a safety, but they just never picked me, so I didn't get the luxury to do that.
Same.
But the great program is the Gang Resistant Education and Training. It talks about not only resistance to gangs, but it talks about mentorship. It talks about being a good steward. It talks about being healthy. It talks about loving yourself. So when we talk about, I think somebody brought up earlier, how come we don't get it when they're younger, right? The middle children are always most likely the ones that are forgotten, because I saw with my brother sometimes, he was the bottom kid. So my mother's like, hey, she babied him, but in the school system now, I've instituted these programs, and we went in 5 schools this year. Next year, as I get more officers, we're gonna double that. So getting them and planting those seeds of love, of hope, of everything they need to have in their life, because a lot of them, as somebody mentioned earlier, they don't have them. My officers sometimes mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, uncles, aunts, whatever it is they need to be, we do our job to do those things. And those programs help them to understand about accountability as well. It's one of the exercises about being on the bus. We line the chairs up, and it's a young person who wants to get on the bus, but because they don't like him, they keep jumping from chair to chair to chair, so he won't sit down. And at the end of it, we talk about how did that make, and everybody gets to go through it, so each person, each kid can see how did it feel to be excluded. And we all do a group thing, and it's about giving them the tools that they need as they grow older, because they learn about accountability. They learn about feelings, because a lot of them don't have, they're numb to everything, right? As police officers, we become numb, and we know what numb looks like. So we see that numbness in our kids. They're hurting, they're hurting, they're hurting. We must embrace our kids at every moment that we can, so when they get older, they don't look for that heat, they don't look for that love from somewhere else that's a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's go over here.
How y'all doing? My name is Dominic. I just want to say, my little brother, Tashawn, he's supposed to be here with us, but he not. He in timeout right now. I just want to know, why do y'all keep doing stuff that ain't working for the youth instead of putting more time into stuff that is working? You like more of the centers, like put y'all more, open more centers, more racks and stuff like that in schools. Get us something to like more activities in school, like make school fun for us. Like y'all say, why do kids leave out? Because the teacher's not always there for us. Talking to teachers, they be putting stress on our back sometimes instead of teaching us. Like, yeah, I just like make us feel loved. That's what make us feel loved. That's all it is.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate that point is, I think, the piece maybe we don't say enough. Young people want to feel love. Yep. And if they don't get that love at home or in some other productive means, they will find the unproductive love that they can find. That's right. And mistake that for love, and it's not love. I'll say this, with schools, City Council does not control schools. We partner with schools, and it's something that we're always trying to do to make sure that our schools have the resources they need and the support that they need, and young people have what they need to get to and from school and feel safe in and around school. But our school board and school CEO is really where a lot of that conversation is necessary, and it's a conversation we continue to have with them as they think about the future of the school system. But I think you're right on point. And I would encourage you to continue to have those conversations with the administration and the school and make sure they understand what you feel is missing so far as love and relationships in the classroom. So, yeah.
And I just wanted to add, first of all, thank you for being here. Baltimore Police Department is trying to stand up a youth advisory board. So we're hoping, by having the youth in the room tonight and the young people, that there'll be interest in joining to advise directly to the police commissioner, directly to the deputy commissioner, the things that you all need, the things that you all want. Looking forward to getting a big presence. We're not building this on our own, we're building this with youth voice. So if you're interested, if it's something that you don't want to commit to, but you can email us your ideas, we'd welcome those. And if you have friends, and can refer them as well. I know we're going to work with Hassan from the State's Attorney's Office to hopefully get your contact info, and anybody is welcome. So thank you.
All right, we're going to go into overtime here, about 20 more minutes, okay? About 20 more minutes. If you don't get your question answered tonight, the State's Attorney's Office has people around. They have on shirts that say State's Attorney's Office on them. You see several right up here at the front. They'll have tablets. They can take your question and your information and get it answered for you. So we're going to continue on, but again, keeping that in mind, let's try to keep to the rapid fire so we can get as many questions in as possible before we wrap up. Let's go over here. Yes, ma'am. We only got 20 minutes.
Okay, let me talk right now. So I wanted to see close. Again, I was just listening to some of the answers and thinking about the solutions and things that we could work with just as well. Like the gentleman just said about recs. That's so important because our children are very active, extremely active, overactive. So there's only one shake and bake in Baltimore City. One shake and bake in Baltimore City. And we have all of these children in Baltimore City that have all this energy. So where are they going to express it? Sure, there's a budget, but then there's philanthropists that's all around Baltimore City in the world. So that's a thought of a solution. The next is regarding that revolving door. I was talking to a police officer. I'm in Park Heights area. That's where my store is, Central Park Heights. So he was just sharing that if you have a gun and you get a repeated offense, it's just a repeated offense. If you take someone's life, it's a stronger offense. So somewhere within the window, I don't know, but he was just sharing within the conversation because there's a lot of gun violence, where the gun's coming from. Third, in regards to emotion and what they were sharing about being unhappy, like the young son was just speaking about himself, we could just think about where they live. So I know that the housing is very important. So you live in a house and you got 5 abandoned houses. So how are you going to feel when you get up in the morning, you're going to walk to school? It's not a happy feeling. You don't have grass in front of your house. You have trash that's not picked up. So all these emotions are inside of you. And so where are you going to express it? So these are just some of the things I wanted to share because I know things that we're going to be working on. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to say so much more, but I know we don't have time. My 25-year-old son was murdered in the city of Baltimore.
Sorry.
And he broke me. And when you got a broken mother, the whole home is broken. Now I'm dealing with his 15-year-old son, which is my grandson, and my 17-year-old son that are also broken. They are torn from the loss of my child. So what do I do to fix them? Because it's a heavy load, and I will never be the same. Ever again. Because once my son left here, he took a big part of me with him. And it is internal. The loss of my child has destroyed my whole home. Yes, mental health. Like I said, I cannot get into everything. I started my own mom support group, Flowers from Heaven. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. Yes, for any mothers that are looking for support and grief and love. I am Flowers from Heaven. But again, my one child leaving my family have destroyed all of us.
Yeah.
Can I say again before we go, Pastor Smith, I need you to make certain that we are held accountable for the information that these individuals are sharing and that we come up with the solution for that. Because, for example, what Mom just described, she's not alone in that experience, but what is our response for everybody like her in Baltimore? And we got to do that for everything that we're talking about here. They're talking about the schools, how the youngsters don't feel loved. Well, it wouldn't have happened if you were at Dr. Brooks' school, so some of our principals. And I'm qualified to talk about them because I was one. Right? Our principals got to get with it because some of our principals are not effectively trained to be principals. And that's why the schools look like a place that they wouldn't even want their own children. Right? So I'm saying we can fix this, but we got to take this serious in terms of the system. And let me just say this last thing, TJ. We let people drop out and drop off in Baltimore. Youngsters that go to school and they do well, and they're college bound or they're work ready and they work well, guess where they end up? They end up at college or at work. Mm-hmm. Our youngsters who drop out and they have run afoul of the law, we let them drop off.
Most of the individuals who end up in Maryland prisons or some of the federal system, if you're in Baltimore, you went to Baltimore City Public Schools. So when do we just let them drop off? We got to fix that. Our people become invisible. And I can use Carmichael right there. That's my little brother. He never became invisible, although I've met him, I saw him when he was in training school, one of the smartest around, but wanted to do what he wanted to do. So he ended up in federal prison. But he never was invisible in our neighborhood. We never did not see him. We can't allow this to keep happening. So I'm just saying, I'm not sitting on another panel. I only did this because Ivan said, let's come. But I'm not sitting on another panel. If we don't come out of here with some solutions, I need y'all to call us out. If we don't come out here with some solutions, we shouldn't have to have another panel nowhere in Baltimore City.
And that's why reentry is also so important, because what he said, they're behind the walls, they're gonna be dumped right back where they came from with nothing in a lot of cases, and what else do you think is gonna happen? So that's where the investments come in. Over here.
Hi there, good evening. I'm Kelly Quinn. Glad to be with you all tonight. I'm from the Choice Program at UNBC. We're a mentoring and diversion program. I'm a city voter from District 46. I've heard lots of ideas about solutions tonight, lots of requests for solutions. I've got two. One is, let's stop calling children juveniles. As soon as we do that, we're accepting a framework that they're already in trouble, that they're already a problem. So please, let's call them children. Another major point that I'd like to make tonight is that the children, your specials, these 50, the kids that we work with, you know what? They're victims too. And we, in the Choice Program, seek to address that by providing support. I think that one of the major things that we could do would be to tell different stories. Mr. Bates, I'd love it if you could start telling different stories about the young people in Baltimore. I think that would make a tremendous difference. Yeah. Mackenzie Frost, here, last in line. Oddly, why is a member of the media in a public meeting going to get to ask a question? Please tell us different stories about the children of Baltimore. Yeah. That's what I'd like to hear, is some different kinds of stories. And I've heard Councilman Conway offer that. I've heard Stephanie. I've heard many people. Lisa, hi, I'm so glad you're at BPD. P.S., I want to say something great about DJS. We served 568 young people last year. We're DJS contractors. With us, they did 1,900 hours of community service. I can tell you all kinds of impressive numbers about how they stayed out of trouble and they stayed at home. I want you to know they did 1,900 hours of community service because they know how to be in community when they're supported with caring people.
You know, first of all, excuse me, I thank you for the information, but also what you have to understand is that everybody has a role from the system, and your role from the system is different than my role. I'm listening to the victims time and time and time again. But I also say part of what we do up here is we try to find a solution so that everybody can hear what everybody else's story is. You know, unfortunately, when you do the job that we do in the prosecutor's office, there aren't a lot of really great stories that you hear. Because the stories I hear, unfortunately, are the mothers whose young people have been murdered by other young people. Or it's the other victims who have been continued to be victimized in the community, or people in the community that just feel like nobody's listening to them. And when we come here, one of the good things is that there are a lot of good young people doing a lot of good things, and we really enjoy that. But we also have to remember there are also a lot of victims out there. For the mother that was out there earlier and who lost her son, we have a victim witness division who's out here. Our victim witness division serves so many families that have lost loved ones. And one of the things I tell people is so difficult for me, have you ever had to talk to a mother whose child was murdered? Yeah. Have you? And when you've had to have that conversation, and have that conversation with the mother to say, unfortunately, we can't proceed with this case for whatever reason, the hurt and the pain. So one of the reasons we want to have a program like this, we want to talk about the solutions, is everybody has a role within the system. There's not one person who's going to fix it, and there are some great stories, but there's some sad stories. And part of the process is not looking through this through rose-colored glasses. We have to understand we have a lot of work to do. We have some great people that have started it. We have some great people that are also going to be a part of this process. At the end of the day, it's being together as a group, listening to everybody, understanding everybody's role, and at the end of the day saying, what can we do to find the solutions? I've offered solutions on my portion. Everybody has a part to play in this. At the end of the day, listening to everybody, learning from everybody is how we fix this situation.
I want to acknowledge Dylan Rooks. He's the student commissioner for Baltimore City Schools. With Dylan, yeah. So any young people who might still be here, make sure you connect with Dylan. Thank you for your service. Let's go over here. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leslie Frazier. I volunteer my time as a court-appointed special advocate, a CASA worker, and what I often find is resources are very hard to find. I know that there's a lot of people doing a lot of things in the city. A lot of the youth that I work for, that I advocate for, are in Baltimore City, and unfortunately, at this point, it's almost too late, because I think it's about 18% in the state of Maryland that the youth are aging out of the foster care system. And a huge percentage of that is in Baltimore. And unfortunately, I've seen it time and time again where there's been a lot of issues because of lack of resources or knowing where to get resources. Thank you, Darnell, because you've helped me along to get resources, and I've tried to work with a lot of your agencies that are on the stage. Another issue that I do want to address, because there is a disparity in the disproportionate representation of minority youth. So the foster care youth that are aging out of the system, it's like they're just another number, unfortunately. So they do get the short end of the stick, and there's nobody there to really represent them so they have a chance to have a successful life getting out of the system. Yeah. So I would like to know what you would plan to do about that. Thank you.
I'll try to tackle that question. I think one of the things we have available to the city, it was an effort that actually happened before I came on the council, but we established a Baltimore City Youth Fund. That youth fund is to go toward programs and initiatives to support young people across the city. That money's moving around a little funny today. I think we need to be very careful about how we spend our money that is clearly dedicated for young people. We should not play fast and loose with that money. And I think it's a real opportunity to tackle real problems for some of our most needy young people, people in foster care, young people in foster care, young people with special needs. And so I think that's the kind of stuff we should be thinking about, because often those are the young people that, if we don't provide the support and guidance, they end up on the other side of this system that we're talking about here today. So I can't agree with you more. I think there's a real need to be thoughtful about how we spend funds that are supposed to go squarely towards programs that support young people. How many advocates are there like you, ma'am? How many advocates are there like you? We need to build out that army, is what he said. All right.
More needed. Yes,
I
ma'am.
appreciate your work.
So.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Hope.
Come up to the mic a little bit.
Oh, my name is Hope, and unfortunately, my son was murdered in 2019.
Very sorry.
By a 15-year-old. It was very hard, like the lady said. I understand the pain, but I also look at it as a positive way, even that my son got murdered. I was mad at this kid for a very long time. I come to the decision now, like we should do, even if it's going to be hard for me. I'm going to the prison and I'm going to forgive the kid. Because as I did research about this kid, I see why. He came from a family that was from gun violence. Sometimes we don't understand why our kids do what they do. It's because at home, I'm a teacher. I see it every day. I see the girls, young ladies. It's supposed to be a dress code, parents. but I see them showing their bodies already exploiting themselves. I see the young men cussing, all of this confusion with them. But somebody's got to take the time out to care about them. Stop labeling them. It's making them worse. I say that because the kid that was in my classroom, I'm going to give them a quote every morning. They got to have something positive to focus on. When they come home, when they come to me, they tell me their parents don't care. It's not just up to the senators and the state governors. It's up to us. It's no reason why that I'm talking to the parents, if you're a parent. There's no reason why that I'm teaching a 6th and 7th grader and they're on kindergarten level, 2nd grade level. Why? Once we leave them, they're going home. And once they go home, they're emulating. They emulating the parents. So what are we going to do about that change? We got to change home so we can get the results. Because if you don't feel like you care about your kids, nobody's going to care about them. If you don't care, what you think they're going to do? Oh, she doesn't care, or he doesn't care, or that parent doesn't care. And guess what? Those young people get the end of the stick, the wrong deal. Next year when they come to school, my challenging students, or not going to say my challenging students, but other teachers, I'm talking about the teachers now. We have to come together in the classroom also. Yes, it's a burned out situation we're going through, and we're still going through it. But we got to take the time and solve the solution within us. Because this man on my shirt is not pleased. We have failed what he wants us to do. And he wants us to come here and be a village, like we were in the 60s. And we come and communicate together.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's the solution.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to solve that, education. I asked how many kids in my class have a library card.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
One, okay.
Thank you. Just for purposes of time, we're running out quickly, but thank you. And very sorry for your loss. Yeah.
I apologize, but it's
No.
coming some good out of it because I'm
No,
also
no, no.
forming a nonprofit organization.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Greg Butler. 10 years ago, I was a young man at the Freddie Gray Uprising who wore the gas mask. Today, I'm in my 6th year of being a school dean and my 1st year of being...
Congratulations.
I'm in my 1st year of being a director of education and training for the Sanctuary Collective, a program, a nonprofit that is spearheaded by the great Sam Brand from Poly. I'm one of those guys. I'm one of Dr. Bunley guys. I take pride in being an educator. But let's be clear, this is an old issue. 2 days after I got out of jail from the Freddie Gray Uprising, I went and hollered at one of my OGs who owned a bar, and he said 2 things to me. He said, first thing, Greg, I'm upset with you because you was in a position where you needed money and you didn't call me. That says a lot about how you think about me as a friend. The second thing he said to me was I stood on the line as one of those gentlemen that let you down because in the 80s, we decided to get money and drop the fight. And if we don't do that, you don't stand here. So let's be clear. Every young man has to eat. And if ain't nobody teaching you how to fish, we're gonna bite something regardless. So let's be very clear. This is an old story that myself, Stokey, Bunley, I got to meet your brother at a rough point in my life, and he put me back on track. And I stand on that same line and I teach these things to kids. The problem becomes many of our parents are overwhelmed, and it's not for us to judge, it's for us to contribute. My biggest issue, 2 weeks in, we got 2 weeks left of school, and I got kids trying to fight every day. I got parents that's looking to prove points, and I have a lot of issues that we cannot solve in the building. My question to everybody on the panel, what do we do in the next 90 days to roll out a real plan to deal with students who are in that intermediate space between mom hasn't done anything for me to call CPS, he hasn't done anything illegal, and he's definitely not academically inept enough to push to a Yo Baltimore. What can we do to make sure that the schools have those resources and are ready to roll out in August? Because the reality is when you come to running a school, if we can hold a line at August and keep it till about Halloween, the kids fall in line. But when you come to the door unprepared, you lose another school year. One of the kids that I'm proud of and I'm so sad to lose in the way that I did, one of the young men who was accused of a shooting up at Edmondson Avenue at the school where 5 kids were shot, might have been in his 11th grade. We knew he was struggling with some of this stuff in 7th grade. We knew mom was dead, we knew dad was gone, we knew grandma had aged out of a place where she could physically hold him. And we had to deal with him and maintain and try to direct in a way that wasn't as aggressive as something that the city could provide. And I watched that kid walk out that door with no heart in his chest, owing nobody nothing, and having to deal with a block where the 20-year-olds are in control, the 50-year-olds don't want to talk to him, and he got to walk out of here at 3:55 regardless. And you better hope he's going to be here at 8:05 in the morning. That's real. So the reality is, my only question, and I am a young black male's advocate, and I'm only standing here. Them people tried to give me 25 years and $1 million in restitution. That was 10 years ago. I'm in my 6th year as an educator. If it was up to me, I'd have messed it up 1,000 times. But God is the best of all plans. Thank you. I don't want to be here. I voted for Stokely. I believe that there are people like you who's going to run this city, but we keep running into the same wall. So my question is, what are we going to do in the next 90 days to make sure that the resources we know exist, I'll sign an email in a principal or a community organizer that could take a job in July and take that information with them. What are we going to do to be ready for August so we can roll into making sure that some of these kids are prepared?
Well, for me, start with thank you. First of all, thank you for your transition. Thank you for being here. But, I'm going to be honest with you. We need more guys like you, right? And not only in the school system, I respect you, I trust you, and I can relate to you. That's the change we need to see. Myself, I have set up a program where I'm starting to hire more. Now, I don't want to say at risk, more from high school where they said we got to be 15. I'm hiring at 14, and I'm trying to hire 500 kids by August. That way they already start working with school over with, right? To give them something to do, because you spoke about social economics, and one of my favorite parables is, and I shared this with Doc. I cried to Doc. I called him last Thursday, crying to him tears because what you just said, because I felt like I perpetuated this negative narrative we see today. I'm responsible for what I see out there because I started it. So you can't just get out and say, oh, okay, catch one, catch all. That's not how it works. So what I want to do is do the work and not do the talk. But I told Doc this, and I mean this about my heart. Thank you. Not just for believing in me, but for changing your life to give everybody hope and inspiration, because it can be done. I did it. I don't tell my story a lot because, again, I'm tired of these panels just like Doc. I'm so sick and tired of these panels because it's so frustrating. Mothers losing their kids. Election cycle come, we vote, nothing changed. In 2015, when you got arrested, we had a black president, a black mayor, a black city council president, a black state's attorney, a black police commissioner, and we still killed more people in Baltimore than any other year in the history. So I understand it's not about complexion, it's about leadership, and Doc said it best, can't lock our way about this problem. That's why Ivan invited me. But what I would do is the best I can do. I want to hire young people, give them a chance like they gave me. Because my mother died of AIDS. My father wasn't there. But I ain't making no excuses. I had guys like you in my life telling me, you know what, you're going to be better than what you was. I went to school for psychology. Now I'm a serial entrepreneur, not a serial hustler. So thank you, man, for what you do. And anything I can do in my individual official capacity to help your school or you, I want to do it.
So,
thank you.
And Stokes, so this is what we need to do, because we're talking about systems, right? Let's go, because I feel you. I'm ready to go. Let's go to where you are with those youngsters right there, what you talking about, and let's hold that. I know we're going to hold it down, because when I bring my guys, and you bring your guys, and the guys come, we're going to hold it. And once we hold that, then we show how serious we are. Then we replicate it, because we ain't the only ones like that.
We got guys like us all over the place. I'm telling you, our system is broken, and they not letting the guys that can really get in and get it done fit in. And so let's go. So Stoke, we going there with all those resources. I'll bring my team. I'll talk to Captain Andrew. And we're gonna hold that, and we're gonna show the folk that we can hold it, right? And then we're gonna replicate it. But let me just say this, and the last thing, Mark, listen. We constantly say this. You know, before the school system went up under the state, it was under the mayor. Listen, I don't buy that stuff that the school system belonged to Dr. Santelisa's, because these damn children, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry. These darn children, I can't calm down, right, when we talk about our children, but I can be respectful. These darn children belong to us. So when they talk about the school system, no, because those children belong to the parents of the city and the mayor of the city. You elected in the city. So they our children. They ain't the school system children. So we got to change that mindset. We got to change that mindset. So when we go up there, right, we're going to go deal with other people's children in a school system of the city, and then we're going to see who the children belong to. The children belong to the ones that belong to them. That's how it goes. You love them, they love you back. They say anybody that cannot treat me right can't teach me right. You treat them right, you get an opportunity to teach them right. It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
Yeah. All right, we have time for 2 more questions.
Apologize.
I'm going to go here and go here. If you were in line, see one of the state's attorneys, people, get your information. We'll try to get to your question. Again, apologize. It's a good problem to have that so many people come out and want to talk. But again, to be respectful of the time. And Pastor Smith, if you don't mind making your way up here to take us out in prayer. But we're going to start over here, and then we'll come here for our final 2 questions as we have to wrap up the evening. Well, we have to be respectful of the time. We've gone over time already, and we have to be respectful of the time. So sorry, ma'am. I understand. It's just the time went over. I did ask people to be brief, but you saw how it was going.
And
so,
panel also
yeah.
didn't follow that
all right.
rule,
So,
like we didn't.
all right. Sorry. All right. Let's go over here. Hold on.
Stifle the questions and the voices that are in the room. And so next time, maybe we can have some better corralling of voices so that everybody that took their time out of their day also got here and got to ask their question. It would be great for that to be respected of the rest of the people. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
I want to say I've been based. We agree on a lot of things, and you are the only reason why I'm here, because I see you say the parents should be criminalized when they can't take care of their children. In 2015, I graduated from Morgan State University with a bachelor's degree in philosophy and religious studies. I believe you are correct in saying it got to be spiritual, because this is what the Bible says about a spiritual war. And I am happy, and my Bible also told me that I got to live like Jesus did. If I believe in him and he believes in me, and he will give me everything I want. John 15:7. If you remain in me and I remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and I will do it for you. And my Bible said, Christ left an example that we should follow in his steps. And all who believe that if Christ is in me and I am in Christ, we should follow his steps. Yeah. And with that being said, ma'am, the monthly, you gave me $25,000 for my ex-offenders program. And using the city resources, MOED, Mayor Office of Employment Development, I have 25 ex-offender out of 26 passed my program and got jobs. The one person I didn't have was her niece. Who died.
And only because of time, thank you very much. We can follow up, make sure you get your information so we can follow up.
Solution.
Yeah, thank you.
I got one solution. If they get locked up, you let them go home. If they get locked up again, you put an ankle monitor on them. If they act up 3 strikes you out, have them do 30 days over the jail and let some of them inmates instill in them that this is not the rule.
And sir, thank you very much. Yeah, we totally get that. Real quick, you get the final question here tonight. And again, if you did not get an opportunity, the state's attorney has his staff here tonight. They can take your information. They have tablets to get it, and the question can and will get answered. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the panel. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Pastor Smith, for hosting this. My question is to accountability. One gentleman got up here, a couple gentlemen got up here, and they talked about black men being accountable and taking it to the home. I agree 100% that we failed in a lot of ways, and we have to face that and do what we are supposed to do as men for our families. But there's also an accountability piece that I haven't heard a lot talked about with Baltimore City Public Schools and the accountability that they have and how they have failed our kids as well. Our kids deserve a quality education. We pay more taxes in Baltimore City than any of these other counties around us and don't get the quality of education that they get. And for that, they have failed. No one has stepped to the plate and said, hey, we failed you, and this is what we're going to do. What I would say, 2 things. One, who on this panel also agrees that Baltimore City public schools have failed our kids, and who, by show of hands, would say, I would surely put my child in Baltimore City schools? Mm-hmm. By show of hands. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so with that, look, we know that there is a ton of work left to do. That was part of it. And one of the things I picked up on is there are a lot of ideas of solution, and now it's getting to the how to implement some of the things. Some of the things I heard, the change in the home, it's a how do you get there, because that's a heavy lift, right? The mental health and the hospitals and the doctors, getting them involved, the community, of course, the schools just brought up again, rec centers, another heavy lift, tap into those nonprofits and philanthropists to try to help with some of the funding for certain programs that might be needed. Where are the guns coming from to try to stop that pipeline of guns? Knowing your local legislators on the senator and delegate level, the foster care system. There were a number of things that I saw. I know that the panel took notes and others took notes. But with that, if State's Attorney, you want to have some final words before we bring up Pastor P.M. Smith to close us out in prayer. Thank you all for being here tonight, and it says a lot about all of you.
First of all, I want to say thank you so much to TJ for being a phenomenal host tonight. And I want to thank the panel for being here tonight and everybody bringing their own perspective about the issues. I also want to thank everybody that came tonight. You got to sit, you got to listen, you got to answer your questions and be a part of this process so we can understand better what everything and everyone's going through. But I also really want to thank Pastor P.M. Smith, your entire staff here at the church, and thank you for just opening your doors. You know, tonight was an opportunity to hear from one another. See, we operate in silos and we don't ever understand what everybody else is going through. And you're right. A lot of what we do, we hear the negative of young people. That's unfortunately the job that we have and unfortunately the job that I have. But we also know there's some real good young people doing some great things. So what you did here tonight, you got to hear the carrot and the stick. A lot of carrots are up here, and we're the stick. And what we want is the same thing. We want our young people to win in life, because without our young people winning our life, our city doesn't have any hope. And if we don't have hope, we've lost. So make sure, and I know Dr. Bunley said, we got to have a solution. I've offered a solution in terms of what I look at from my point of view. The solution is clear. For us to do this, we have to get back to the faith organizations. For us to do this, we have to all partner together with everybody who's up here. But we also recognize the stick has to change the system so that the system holds young people accountable, but also make sure that it protects the community. And with that, we do have solutions. The Solution Pact, we are working together to make this happen. And with that, I want to say thank you so much. And if Pastor Smith, you want to come on up? And thank everybody for being here. And thank the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office and all the great work the State's Attorney's Office has done. You know, so often as prosecutors, you just want to lock them up. No, we don't want to lock them up. We want to find an answer to the question, how can we be better stewards of what we have going on in this city? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you, everybody on the panel, and thank you, everybody who has come to spend this couple of hours with us. I want to say this, and then we're going to pray and put you out. I thought I was a decent guy. I had a great career, but I had a problem. I was a good user of people. I was good at using people. I came to faith in Christ, and I hated it because he put a mirror in front of me and said, you are the problem. Only when I accepted myself as the problem, not just a contributor to the problem and blaming everybody else, did my life change for the better. About 5 years ago, maybe 10, I wrote an article called, We Have a Us Problem. Whether it's the citizens of Baltimore City or whether it's the African Americans in this city, we got an us problem. Some folk will say I'm judging and pointing fingers, but that's a good thing. Because if it's my problem, I can find ways to solve it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's incumbent upon every one of us individually to begin to contribute to the solution of the problems we see in our families, in our neighborhoods, and in our communities. It's on you as an individual, it's on us collectively. We got an us problem, but the good news is we are the solution to our us problem. Does that make sense? We're the solution. And I want to use the F word before we leave here.
Freedom.
No, family. Family. Family was the first institution created by Almighty God, not the church. Family was the first institution that children were given to, not the village. The village don't go to PTA meetings. The village shows up at a murder site and put balloons in the air and boots over the wires. That's what the village does. It's the family. Every nation, every neighborhood is built on the foundation of family. Our families in the urban arena are fractured all across this nation until we go back to our families and reclaim our valuables, which are our relationships and our values. Nothing gonna change. Do you hear what I'm saying? Reclaim our valuables, the people in our lives, and our valuables, our integrity, consistency, personal responsibility. Our valuables are our people. Our values will make a difference. Let's stand. Thank you for being here. Can we, Mr. State's Attorney, can we get together one more time between now and December 31st?
Of course.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Between now and December 31st?
Yes.
That ain't too soon, is it?
No, sir.
Until then, we got work to do, individually and collectively. Personally, I say, what can I do to address the problem? Then I say, what else can I do to address the problem? Then I say, what more can I do to address the problem? That makes sense? Father, we bow before you. We're so grateful we can call you our Father. We're thankful for the way your hand has been upon our lives as your people. We ask your blessings upon those who you've placed in leadership position. We ask your blessing upon those who you put in position to stand on the wall and be warriors, those who are in the classroom to be teachers, those who are moms and dads to be moms and dads, laying the foundation in the lives of our children who are our future. We ask you to be with us as we depart this place. Grant us traveling mercies. Let us arrive safely at home. Let us find our homes and the people who we leave there blessed, safe, and kept by you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. Be nice. Be nice. Be respectful. See you next time. Thank you, thank you. And don't forget, fill this form out, please. Don't forget, fill this form out, please.